Greetings. Welcome to USALA Media, USALA, USA, Latin America. As always, we're wonderful to be here, bringing the latest events in El Barrio, Philadelphia. And we are coming to you from the heart of El Barrio in Philadelphia, North American Street in Philadelphia. USALA Media, and this show is called Encounters. And as usual, we're trying to bring you interesting personalities and people and politicians and people running for office that we think you should be aware of. I think we're very lucky today. We have the incumbent councilwoman from the 7th Councilmember District of Philadelphia. And for viewers who don't understand that, the 7th Councilmember District of Philadelphia basically encompasses really a large portion of the largest portion of the Hispanic community. That is why it is of our interest to hear from Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada. Quetcy, welcome to USALA Media and the show Encounters.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We're very glad that you're here. We're going to have a nice conversation. That's our format. I already told you that. Again, Quetcy is the incumbent. She is right now the councilwoman in the 7th District and the City Council of Philadelphia. Very important, vital cog for us. For the sake of transparency, I gotta say, I've known Quetcy for many, many years. I think you were at Concilio at the time.
I was. That's where I met you. That's it.
So we're not gonna date ourselves on when that was, but sake of transparency, I know her. So, and again, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you for the work that you all do in the community, right? And for making sure that community residents and across the U.S. Know about Philadelphia in a positive way, right? A lot of times we don't get to tell our story. And so I'm excited to know that you're here and that you choose what people know about us as a city. Absolutely.
That's exactly the spirit of USALA Media. You're absolutely right. Quetcy, you're running for re-election.
I am.
Now on May 16th, which is fast approaching. I hope everyone who's viewing and is a resident of the city and the district has registered to vote. As a matter of fact, I think today is the last day for mail-in ballots, I believe.
Today is the last day.
That's right. That's important for our folks to know here in the Hispanic community. We are unabashed about that. We're a Hispanic community. Quetcy, look, you're running for re-election. 7th is vital to us, that council-managed district. However, when we talk to our neighbors and our people, there is no doubt about it. The feeling is, and by the way, mayoral candidates have been sitting where you're sitting, and I always open up with the same thing. There is the sense, and I don't think I'm wrong at all, or we're wrong, that there seems to be a sense of lawlessness in the city. The neighbors are upset about that. We have crime issues. We have issues like these young people who, as soon as the weather starts getting warm, they start motorcycles and they swarm all over the cars and people have to stop. There's a sense of lawlessness and crime and gun violence, and the 7th Councilmember District is not immune to that. So I want to hear your thoughts on that issue and how do we approach that? How do we make things better?
I appreciate that question. I think that you're absolutely correct. And I believe that part of that is our own fault, right? We started to say, as leaders in this community, that we couldn't arrest our way out of a lot of things that were happening, not only in the 7th Council District, but across the city of Philadelphia. And I think that turned into, we won't do anything about it, or that was the perception, or that is the perception, right? However, what we should have been saying is that we have to figure out how to work through it, how to hold people accountable for the things that are happening in our city and in this district. That issue is an issue across the city, but in the 7th Council District, everything is exasperated, right? Because this is like ground zero for everything that is happening across the city. We're the epicenter of the opioid crisis. We are in the Hunting Park community is the neighborhood where they find the highest number of ghost guns. We are the district where the 24th, 25th, 26th police districts, which is considered East Division, has been identified as 2 of the pinpoint neighborhoods, which is where the highest violent crimes happen. And that is a result of lack of police force, right? We don't have, we are about 1,000 police officers down across the city of Philadelphia. We've not been able as a city to figure out what do we do with 1,000 people who are occupying our neighborhoods, who primarily are not from this city. Definitely not from this community,
Wow.
but we've allowed them to concentrate in a specific neighborhood. And I think that was because people thought that we could control it if it was in a specific area, right? I don't think
control what?
we could control where they were and how they were operating and what activity was happening if it was in a specific neighborhood. I had a conversation
criminal
with
activity?
police. Yes.
I see.
The drug dealing activity, the consumption activity, the prostitution activity, all of those things were things that created the Kensington Harrogate neighborhoods, right? I spoke to a police officer at one point and said, why? Why is this here? Why is this in the 7th Council District? Why is this in a predominantly poor neighborhood? Why is it acceptable if it's not acceptable in other neighborhoods? And they said, Councilwoman, it's because we can control it here. Or at least we thought we could control it here, right? I don't think that people expected the problem to get as large as it has gotten. We've also, unfortunately, have had leadership that wasn't willing to invest in the community. And I don't like to say those kind of things because I feel like I don't want to call anybody out, right? I don't want to embarrass anybody, but that's the reality. Right? We have to call it what it is, and we have to accept that if we want to be able to put things in place to be able to change it. And so I think there's been a lack of leadership, a lack of political will to be able to bring change to the neighborhoods like Kensington and Harrogate, and to fix what we as government have allowed there.
And how do you think that is? How do you think we fix it?
I'm going to respond to that, and I'm going to ask you that you ask every single mayor that comes to sit in this seat the same question.
Which, by the way, we have.
Okay. And I hope that their response has been that we have to hold each other accountable. We have to start, and we have to include accountability and enforcement. Right? Most folks don't want to talk about enforcement because there's been a lot of work in the progressive world around second, third, fourth, and fifth chances. And so when I talk about enforcement in the community, folks are like, well, Quetcy, you're going to get many of the people that look like you and I, you're going to get them into trouble. You're going to make them a part of the systems again. You're going to get them locked up because a lot of them are involved in this activity. And you're going to break families up again as a result of them having to go away. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case, right? We need to be able to bring back enforcement. A lot of folks for a long time were calling for defunding the police. But if you look around in the neighborhood, when that movement was happening of defund the police, there were people that did not live in the community that were calling for that. When you talk to the neighbors of the Kensington Harrogate community, they want to be partners with the police department. They want to build a relationship with the police department. They want better neighborhoods in their community, and they know that they can't do it without a police presence and without law enforcement doing their jobs.
Look, from a personal point of view, I fully agree. I think it may be, this is me speaking, I think it may be the case that some people might say that, careful, you're going to get people who look like us more in trouble. I would veto that. I would say, look, by the way, among the many hats that I wear, I'm also a block captain on Ansbury Street. And what I hear from especially the elderly people is, no, it's high time. We want enforcement. We want to sleep well at night. You know, I don't have to tell you, people around these neighborhoods say Friday night, Saturday night, careful, you're not going to sleep. The violence, the gun violence, the shots. So personally, I'm glad to hear what you're saying. Absolutely. I think our people need stability in our communities. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think that coming into office, one of my priorities has always been accountability, not just for myself, but holding each other accountable, right? Accountability starts at home, how we raise our families, how we're raising our children. What do we expect from them? What are we teaching them at home? How do we expect them to behave out in the community? And when things are not right, then there are consequences that need to be that needs to be given out. And
Absolutely.
So
that's
I do
the
that
way
at
we were
home.
raised.
Right. I do that at home. And so that the expectation is that I hold myself accountable as an elected official. I remind people every day that I work for them. And that they don't have to respond to me. I have to respond to them. And I think that in communities like ours, I think they have not understood that the power is truly in their voices, that the power is truly on their block, and that if I, as an elected official, don't do what they have asked me to do, that they can hold me accountable. And there's multiple ways for them doing that, right? You just mentioned that today is the last day to submit to request their mail-in ballot. At the polls is where you hold people accountable, right? Showing up to community meetings that you know your electeds are going to be is a way to hold them accountable. Calling their offices, showing up to their offices, coming to your block captains, to your committee people, to your ward leaders. All of those things are important and are pathways to holding elected accountable for the work that we're supposed to be doing for them.
Okay, we hear you. Folks listening in and viewing audience, you are listening to a show that we invented like 2 months ago. It's called Encounters. We are interviewing and having a nice conversation with Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada of the 7th Councilmember District of Philadelphia. And you are right now viewing and listening to USALA Media. USALA, that stands for USA Latin America. Again, Quetcy, back to this conversation we're having. How do you feel in this crime issue of stop and frisk, popularly known as stop and frisk? What do you think about that?
I don't think that anyone should be violated because of the color of their skin or because of their appearance or because of where they live or because of the zip code that their home is in. And so I'm not a supporter of stop and frisk, but I do believe that that a way to protect ourselves and protect law enforcement from being victims of stop and frisk is the body cams. And so I think that we need to invest more in order to be able to protect each other on technology for the police department, cameras in the community, all of those things that would help protect us as residents and them as public servants from being violated, but to be able to support those activities or be able to resolve some of those activities that are happening in the neighborhood. Okay.
On another topic, one of the major issues always impacting the local community is education. Education. Now, look, I want your views on education, public schools, charter schools. I want your views on charter schools. I'm familiar with charter schools, so I can tell you that I know for a fact that charter schools are very popular in the Hispanic community. Every charter school here has a long waiting list of parents encouraging that they want their kids there. Public schools, we have issues with asbestos removal in our public schools, education per se, and I want your thoughts on the school district of Philadelphia and the school board. You know, one of the candidates for mayor, I believe his name is Amen Brown, he says. Amen. Amen Brown says something very interesting. He says the school board should reflect the population. And I don't have to tell you, I believe we need more Hispanic members of the Philadelphia Board of Education. I am aware that the mayor appoints them, but I like your views on that whole big issue that I just saw, I just threw at you on educational issues.
So it's a lot. However, the 7th Council District is home to some of the lowest performing schools. Education is extremely important to me. And I have been fighting for education as long as I knew that I had a voice, right? I am a product of the Catholic school system. My parents struggled and took mortgages out to be able to send myself and my 2 sisters to a Catholic school. More so because my parents wanted to make sure that we had a strong foundation of faith. My dad is a deacon, and he wanted us to have an education as an extension to what he was teaching us at home. I understand that not every community resident has the capacity to be able to send their children to schools that they have to pay for. And so charter schools and public schools are extremely important options in our community. I'm a big believer that parents should be able to choose, like my parents chose and like I have chosen for my children to be to go to schools where they feel two check marks have been made, right? Number one, that when they leave their child in that school building, that they know that their child is going to be safe, that their child is going to be in an environment where they're protected and I can go to work and I am free of thinking about what is happening in that school building with my child in it. That's number one. And number two, that my child is receiving the most successful academic opportunity that is possible. And so I made the choice to put my children in Catholic school originally. As a result of a divorce, I took my daughter out of a Catholic school and decided to put her in a charter school system. And my daughter said to me, charter school is not for me. I there's no structure here. I can't learn here. This doesn't fit how I learn. My son was also had the opportunity to go to one of the first bilingual charter schools here. And I thought, I want my son to go to this school because I want him to be fully bilingual. I want him to learn at home. We spoke predominantly English. I wanted him to be bilingual. So I put him in a school that would offer him that opportunity. And he said to me in the second grade, Mommy, we were under a desk because there was an unidentified individual in the building and they couldn't find him.
Oh, wow. And
after the second time that my son came home and said that to me, I thought, I can't be at work not knowing that my son is unsafe. And so I took him out and put him back in Catholic school. Again, being able to have the capacity to be able to do that and understanding that not every family in this district or in the city has the capacity to be able to do that. It was the right choice for me, and I was able to do that. My son now goes to a private school, and it was my son's opportunity at that school that I wanted everyone in my district to be able to have that opportunity, right? He's been through all of them. He's been through all of those experiences. I've walked into some of the public schools that are in the 7th Council District, and we have some amazing people that run those schools. Some of our teachers don't come to work because they're afraid of the environment that they have to drive into. Some of the teachers don't have the necessary resources to be able to provide our kids with the most successful opportunities. And some of our school buildings are just falling apart as a result of disinvestment. And so, while I believe that every parent should choose what they think is the most successful academic journey for them and their child, I also understand that public school and community charter schools are some of the best options for them, right? And so if that's what they are, then let's make sure that those children are in safe environments, that there is no asbestos, that there is no mold, that the teachers show up, that the teachers have the necessary resources to be able to do the work that they have to do. That when the children walk into those facilities, that through the lens of their eyes, they understand that they're loved and that they're welcome and that they're safe in here, right? Because that's where it starts, is what do I see when I first walk in? How does that space make me feel? And them experiencing something positive as they enter will then open them up and prepare them to be able to sit down and maybe receive everything that the teacher is ready to provide them with. Right. Charter schools, we need more of them, but I think that there is a system in place that is built on slots, and we're never going to have enough slots, right? I know some amazing charter school providers. I come from, prior to coming into this position in November, I worked for Esperanza for a long time. And I just told you what my experience was with my children, right? Charter school didn't fit them. It wasn't that it was wrong. It just didn't fit their needs,
Right, it
and didn't
them.
fit us as a family. But there was nothing. I just didn't have a positive experience until I went into a space like Esperanza, where I
well.
learned,
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
where I learned a completely different world of the charter school world, where I saw and where I understood, right, that if the space was welcoming, that if the space made me feel like I was loved and I was respected, that my attitude about being in that space and being around those teachers was going to change, and was going to provide me with an opportunity to be receptive of what I was going to receive that day, and so. Definitely support charter schools. I think we need more slots. I think we need to figure out how we separate them from being under the school district of Philadelphia, because there's a lot of bureaucracy that happens there.
Yes, believe me, that has been my personal experience also, which leads me to again ask you, so how would you, when it comes to the school district, the school board, how would you encourage and nudge the next mayor? We need our people on that school board.
Our people need to be proactive. I sit on the education committee as part of one of my committees in city council. And part of my frustration is that, there are meetings that happen. There are many charter schools in the 7th Council District. None of them are represented in those meetings. None of them. And so as I'm sitting in those meetings, I'm texting some of the folks that I have a relationship with in the Latino community charter school systems. And they're like, we didn't know anything about it. We have no idea that it was even happening. We've never been invited to it, or we just have never sent anyone to those meetings. And so I think part of the work that we need to do is make sure that they are informed, that they are at the table.
Well, you're going to have your hands full then, letting us know.
No, absolutely. I think, we've done that. We've worked with some of the charter providers to inform them that these things are happening, right? In order for us to be able to provide a successful academic journey to our kids in the neighborhood, we need to make sure that that those who are providing those services are a part of the conversation.
Folks, you're listening and viewing USALA Media. USALA standing for USA Latin America. This show is Encounters, and we're having an interesting conversation with Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada. Quetcy, so switching slight subject matter here. Recently, USALA did a wonderful program. The staff here, the technical staff that is surrounding us right now, we have one of the segments that USALA has is USALA on the Street. These fellows go out on the street to interview people and encounter issues and problems. That's when they interview people. They did a wonderful, very welcomed program on Kensington. These folks went out there. They interviewed the parents of the users, and it was, as a matter of fact, I think they're going to do a third segment on that. So I want your views on Kensington. How do we clean it up, and safe injection sites?
So Kensington has always been my priority, even as a staffer for Councilwoman Maria Quiñones Sanchez. The opioid crisis was always very important to me. How we figure out, how do we connect people to the services that they need? How do we get them into long-term recovery to be able to get them back on track has always been important to me. The opioid crisis in the Kensington community has changed over the years, and first it was mixed with fentanyl, now it's being mixed with fentanyl and xylazine. Part of the work that I've done since I've arrived in November in City Council was to ask for the General Assembly to add xylazine to their controlled substance list. I was very surprised when I asked my council colleagues for their support, including the health commissioner, and everyone said yes. And as a result of that, and as a result of the advocacy that Senator Tina Tartaglione has done at the state, Governor Shapiro has passed legislation and has added xylazine to the level 2 and 3 drug list. And so that's part of the work that we're doing, working across government to ensure that these types of measures are taken to be able to start addressing the opioid crisis that is happening in Kensington. As it relates to safe injection sites, I've been very clear that I oppose safe injection sites. I really believe that we need
Personally, glad to hear that. Our community's against it.
Well,
loud and clear.
I listen to the community, but I said it earlier, right? I'm raising my community. I'm raising my family here. And what I don't want for my family, I don't want for community residents. It's really easy for people to say that they're in support of something that is not in their backyard, that is not in their neighborhood, that they don't have to experience every day.
True.
And so the community has been adamant about opposing safe injections or safe consumption sites, whichever way you choose to classify them or to call them. I believe that what we need to do is turn our attention and focus on more long-term recovery programs, access to recovery. How do we break down the barriers that are in place that will allow people to get the services that they need in their own neighborhoods? How do we reunify them with their families? Because I'm a big believer that in order for a person to recover 100%, there needs to be family involvement. You have to feel like your family is supporting you.
Yes, and historically, there has been a not a complete lack of, but we need more rehab centers. We have, we get them off the street, then we really don't.
And it's short term. A lot of what's out there short term.
Short term, long term. Folks, you're listening to USA Latin America, USALA Media, and the show Encounters. We are having a nice conversation with Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada. By the way, Quetcy's up on the ballot soon on the 16th. So today's the last day to register by mail. Those of you that are registered, we have to go out to the polls. Quetcy Lozada, in the issue of what we're talking about, Kensington and how we do that, I also want to ask you about something I'm very familiar with, which is mental health. I mean, I'm not only the president of USALA, but I'm also the president of Pan American Mental Health. We've been around 28 years now. By the way, in your district, 7th Council Managed District, we have over 3,000 people receiving services there. Like your views on mental health. Personally, I think we need more mental health even in our schools to work with the kids. But I want your views on that.
I think we need to think about what exactly is causing our communities to have that breakdown. What are they missing at home that is causing them to have a mental health breakdown? How do we connect them with good providers? There are many mental health providers in our city and in the 7th Council District. And to be quite honest, not all of them are good providers. Not all of them are good neighbors. And so how do we weed out those that are not good providers? How do we support those? How do we support more those that are the good providers? And how do we ensure that we are providing the services to the community that they need? That doesn't require them to be on any type of medication long term, right? How do we help them connect with not just mental health services, but services that will help improve their quality of life, that would help change how they mentally think about certain things, or how they operate and how they get through, how they deal with certain things in their life to be able to get them to a better place. And so being supportive of good providers is extremely important. Being able to provide services to community residents in a language that they understand, being received by these mental health facilities by people who understand the culture and the community that they live in, and the challenges that are experienced by these individuals every day is extremely important. And those are the kind of things that I want to continue to support.
Good, thank you. You've been clear about that. Now, finally, looking straight at the camera, you were talking to our community. What would they like? What would you like for them to know personally, or whatever that you have in mind? This is the last minute. What do you have on your mind? We're here, and that community is looking at you.
Well, I think that my message to the community is to understand that electeds work for you. We are here to serve you. We are here to ensure that you have a good quality of life. I am up for re-election in the May 16th election. I want you to know that I want you to hold me accountable. I want to be a partner. I can't do the work on my own. You are the people that live in the community. We know that what you experience may not be what your neighboring block is experiencing, and so we know that we can't. There's not one way to do certain things. We are flexible. We are open. My office is always open. I'm here to serve you. May 16th, I asked you to send me back to City Hall to continue to be a voice for you.
Well, there you have it, folks. You've been hearing from Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada right here on USALA Media, USA, Latin America. I am your host, Fred Ramirez, president of USALA and also Pan American Health Services. And I think it's been a nice conversation with Councilwoman Quetcy Lozada. Again, May 16th. That's right. Let's go out there. And folks, Quetcy, thank you again.
Gracias. Thank you.